Hello everybody, my name is Karryshh and welcome back to another recap video. Today it's an Indonesian horror movie called Singsot. It's based on a short film of the same name from 2016, and in this story we follow a little boy who liked to whistle and his grandparents always tell him not to, but when he doesn't listen, something really bad happens, so stick around till end. Now to all of that, if you're new to my channel then make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It is free for you and it is something that helps me out a lot. You can also follow me on Instagram to stay updated on the content I'm working on, or in general if you want to talk to me. With that said, sit back and relax as I recap Singsot, Indonesian horror. So the story begins in a small village in Indonesia where we see a man spreading some kind of liquid in jungle. Well, suddenly he hears birds chirping. He then whistles and pretty soon he catches a bird. Then as he heads back home, he calls his wife and tells her to get the cage ready cause he's finally caught one bird. But right after the call ends, he hears another whistle. This time it was not his, and then an unknown force begins pulling him and it drags him inside the forest. Now we cut to Ipung, a little boy playing with his friends. His kite gets cut loose and he and his two friends chase it into a nearby forest. One of the boy warns Ipung not to go in cause apparently the man we saw in the beginning, his name is Suter. He actually survived, and according to Suter, it's not safe to go into the forest. That's why one of Ipung's friends gave him his own kite and then they all head back home. Now we find out that in this village every household keeps bird and each person uses a strange kind of whistle to keep them calm. Ipung lives with his grandparents and loves helping his grandfather take care of the birds. In the evening, his grandfather, his name is Lanang, teaches him how to feed the birds and handle them carefully. Ipung even copies his grandfather's whistling. But just then, his grandmother, Wedlock, comes in and strictly tells him not to whistle after sunset. Apparently, there's a village tradition that kids shouldn't whistle after dark, but they never really explain why. Anyway, Ipung goes off to bathe and the scene cuts to Suter, who's still recovering from his injuries. His wife Sarla brings him some tea, but she secretly mixes bird blood into it, which kinda shows how much importance birds hold in this village. It's almost like they believe birds are the solution to everything. Then we move on to an old man named Darmo. One of his birds has died and he's doing some sort of ritual over it. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door, but when he checks, there's no one there. Then suddenly, he feels like a lot of birds are flying strangely in his house. Now, if you've seen Bird Box on Netflix, you'll get the idea, like how the bird starts acting up whenever something evil is near, and that's what's happening here in this movie as well. Seems like there's some kind of dark force around the village, and the birds sense it. That's probably why every house keeps bird. After that, Darmo starts hearing whistling sound from inside his own house. He goes to investigate and then the lights go out. The next thing we know, a creepy evil force attacked Darmo. Meanwhile, Suter's body has started stiffening up, like something strange was definitely happening in this village. That night, Lanang's wife Wedlock tells him that they need to scold Ipung, so he stops doing weird things like whistling after dark. But just then, Ipung starts whistling again. This time Lanang gently explains to him that he shouldn't do it at night. But instead of yelling at him, he gives him a little wooden bird that makes a whistle sound when you blow into it. A while later, a man comes running to Lanang and he was panicking because Darmo's dead body was found inside his house. By the next morning, news of Darmo's death had spread throughout the village. Then after his funeral, we see Suter again. Sarla was feeding him, but suddenly his body starts shaking uncontrollably and she has no idea what's going on and how to help him. Then that night, Ipung wakes up cause he hears some strange noises coming from outside. He goes to check, following the sound towards some drying clothes. It was the sound of birds' wings flapping, and soon after, he sees his grandfather Lanang holding a bird and walking away, totally ignoring Ipung when he tries to talk to him. Ipung follows him to the bathroom, but suddenly, Lanang disappears, leaving Ipung completely in shock. Then he looks around confused as hell and then Lanang reappears. Lanang then calls him back inside the house, but when he goes inside the house, he vanishes again. Ipung couldn't understand what was happening and then Wedlock calls him over and asks him to put some clothes in the closet, but as soon as he does that, she disappears as well. Obviously, Ipung was freaked out and just then, a hand grabs him from under the bed. When he looks down, he sees his real grandmother hiding there. She tells him that the person who was sitting on the bed wasn't her and she urges him to hide quickly. Ipung hides with her and he was terrified because moments later, a evil version of Wedlock enters the room searching for Ipung. Ipung then whispers and asks his grandmother who that is, but suddenly, she transforms into an evil spirit as well, and that's when Ipung wakes up, realizing it was just a nightmare. Then a little while later that day, the villagers had gathered to remember Dharmu. Two women were gossiping, saying Dharmu's body was found in the kitchen in such a weird condition, it looked like something evil had attacked him. Then another woman starts talking about how people used to go missing in the forest, like the whole village is cursed or something like that. The woman then starts trash talking everything, including Suitor, saying he's nothing more than a walking corpse cause of the forest curse. But right then, Sarla shows up and overhears him. Sarla then tells him firmly that her husband is just sick and nothing more. She walks off and ends up finding Ipung's wooden bird. Sarla returns that bird, but now Ipung starts to feel like something strange is happening all around him. Then that day when Ipung was wandering near the forest, he comes across his grandparents and some villagers crying near a grave. He walks up and asks what's going on, but out of nowhere, one of his friends pushes him into the grave, and then a few people throw Ipung's dead body right on top of him. The villagers start yelling at Ipung, calling him horrible names, and then he starts to feel dizzy. They begin throwing dirt at him as well, but suddenly, a creepy spirit appears right in front of him. It terrifies Ipung so much that he wakes up, realizing it was just another nightmare. Now as soon as he wakes up, there's some knocking at the door, but later while having breakfast, he asks his grandmother if she had knocked on his door earlier, but Wedlock says she didn't, which scares him even more. That's when he tells her everything that's been happening to him, and after hearing him out, Wedlock gently explains that this is exactly why she told him not to whistle at night. Now Ipung apologizes to her cause he was scared and shaken. He's obviously just a kid after all. Meanwhile, we see Sarla. She takes a bird out of a cage and whispers into its ear over and over again, telling it to give her back her husband multiple times. Then she was about to sacrifice the bird but ends up not doing it. Still, it was clear that the birds and whatever dark force is haunting the village are somehow connected. Now of course, where there's a game, there's gotta be a field, right? So the villagers have even made a whole festival around these birds. On this day, everyone brings one bird from their house and ties it up on a long bamboo pole high above the ground. During the festival, we find out why Dharmo actually died. Turns out, Dharmo only had one bird and we saw that bird die earlier in the film. Since no bird was left to protect his house, he ended up getting attacked. So basically, the more birds you have, the more protected you are from these evil forces. This scene cuts back to Sarla, who eventually does sacrifice the bird. She burns its body in some kind of ritual, and then we go back to Wedlock, where she suddenly hears a whistle and follows the sound to a well. The whistle sound was coming from inside the well, but then behind her, an evil version of Ipung appears and starts choking her. Poor Wedlock nearly falls into the well, but at the last second, Lanang and the real Ipung shows up and save her. Now after this, Lanang realizes what's been happening at home, so he rushes off to meet a friend, someone who might know how to stop these evil things, and we find out that these evil things are affecting more and more people in the village ever since Suitor was first attacked. Meanwhile, Sarla is extremely worried about her husband. Nothing is working on him, and his condition is only getting worse. On the other side, Wedlock takes out a golden egg from her chest, walks to the river and lets lets it float away, saying one thing over and over again: leave this place and don't come back. Not only this, across the river we see a evil presence just standing there, meaning it was some kind of ritual Wedlock did so she could banish the evil presence from her house. Meanwhile, Lanang meets up with his friend Manto. Manto places his hands on a bird cage. We find out that he has some kind of psychic abilities, and with those abilities he slips into a vision. In the vision, Manto is standing in the forest trying to communicate with the evil force that's been haunting the village. And now Manto asks this demon why it has been tormenting people, but the demon starts crying and says it's tired and now it wants to leave this place. Manto tells the demon that it's not possible and that it has to stay here forever, but suddenly the demon appears right in front of him and lets out a really loud scream. That's when Manto wakes up from the vision and he was taken, but now he knows everything. According to Manto, the demon has 40 days to take a human being into its world, but not a dead human. It needs the human alive. That's the only way the demon can escape, and that's why for the past several days all the strange things in the village have been happening because of the demon. The demon is the one who killed Darmo and probably the one who attacked Suitor as well, cause now the demon needs a living person to take its place in the evil realm. After this, we cut to Sarla, who is visited by a man. They talk about how Suitor only has 6 days left, after which the demon will take him away. Hearing that gives us two possible theories. Either Suitor and his wife messed up with some dark ritual and accidentally released demon. Or the second theory is poor Suitor is just a victim of this demon. But either way, we'll find out soon enough what's the real deal. Now the man tells Sarla that there is a way to save her husband. The way is that she could offer someone else to the demon instead. But the real question is, will she be able to go through with something that dark? Something that involves sacrificing someone else for saving her husband. Now after this, we see Ipung showing his wooden bird to his friends in school when suddenly blood starts pouring from his mouth. A lot of blood, and he freaks out. Then his teacher transforms into an evil figure and Ipung runs for his life. He rushes into the bathroom, but instead of a normal restroom, he ends up in some dark shadowy place where the demon attacks him. That's when Ipung wakes up in class, realizing it was just another nightmare. He was scared, so he walks out of the class and goes to wash his face. But the hauntings doesn't stop. The bathroom door slams shut on its own. He checks to see who's there, but it turns out it was just his friend who was trying to mess with him. Anyway, that same friend returns the wooden bird to Ipung, the same bird that Ipung had given him in his dream. Naturally, after seeing this bird like that, Ipung starts questioning himself, what's real and what's a dream. Anyway, after this, Ipung sees the demon again behind his friend and terrified he runs for his life. Meanwhile, back at home, Wedlock has developed a fever and Lanang finds out that she threw the golden egg into the river. He gets upset because in this village, anything related to birds is supposed to be handled by the head of the household. Now since Wedlock ignored the rituals, it's likely the reason she has fallen sick. The scene cuts back to Ipung, who was on his way home when he meets a few men heading towards his house to meet his grandfather. Ipung joins them in their vehicle, but pretty soon the men starts talking about how Ipung shouldn't go home and should just stay with them instead, and that's when things get creepy. The men suddenly transforms into evil entities. Ipung instantly jumps out of their moving vehicle and runs back home. And he accidentally drops his wooden bird somewhere in the forest. And meanwhile, Sarla's wife is hanging clothes when she starts experiencing paranormal. And then she finds Ipung's wooden bird lying by her feet, meaning the demon picked up the bird from the forest and delivered it to Sarla. It basically implies that if Sarla sacrifices Ipung, her husband can be saved. Now, a while later, Sarla comes over to Ipung's house. She chats with him for a bit and then she gives him a treat, which Ipung eats cause he trusts her, even though we all know something shady was probably in it. Then Sarla leaves, but soon after, Ipung starts feeling dizzy and then He suddenly finds himself trapped in a dark, evil space with no way out, which means he was teleported into the world where the demon lives. Meanwhile, Lanang has learned that someone in the village has been practicing black magic. He suspects a man named Masari, who is known to dabble in that stuff. Lanang then goes and confronts him and demands the truth, and turns out Masari is the same guy we saw earlier with Suitor's wife, and now Masari ends up spilling everything. So actually you see, Suitor and Sarla wanted to get rich and they made a deal with the village demon. Masari helped them with the ritual, but the deal backfired badly. Instead of giving him wealth, the demon decided to take Suitor for itself. That's why all these evil events have been happening for the past month, because Sarla is doing everything she can to prevent her husband's death. After realizing all this, Lanang storms into Suitor's house and confronts both of them. Sarla immediately tries to kick him out, but then Lanang hears Ipung's voice. He cannot tell where it's coming from, and it sounds like it's coming from another world. And just like that, Lanang realizes the truth. Sarla sacrificed Ipung to the demon in order to save her husband, and now Ipung is trapped in the dark realm. Obviously, after this, Lanang heads deep into the forest with Manto to try and save his grandson. They sit down together and try to make contact with the forest demon. Meanwhile, in the evil realm, Ipung is trapped among a bunch of hanging clothes. He hears his grandfather's voice and starts following it. Then Ipung sees his grandfather standing in front of a house, calling him inside, and just as Ipung is about to enter, the real Lanang shows up and grabs him, pulling him away just in time. Lanang had entered the evil world with Manto's help just to save his grandson, and now Ipung and Lanang start running, but soon they come face to face with the demon, and this thing is beyond terrifying. Without warning, the demon attacks both of them, and Ipung suddenly gets teleported deep into the forest and gets separated from his grandfather. Now not only Ipung, Lanang also ends up lost in the same forest, and now they're both trying to find each other. Eventually, they start hearing each other's voices. Now as Ipung is following his grandfather's voice, he comes across a bunch of dead bodies, and then he finds himself surrounded by a crowd of spirits slowly moving toward him. He ran for his life but ended up bumping straight into the demon again. The demon grabs him by the neck and starts choking him to death, but just in time, Lanang appears and stabs the demon with a sacred object that Manto had given him, something that could destroy the demon. The demon then starts trembling violently and writhing in pain while Ipung ran for his life, but Lanang doesn't make it out. He gets caught by the demon in the end. The demon starts brutally attacking Lanang, and back in the real world, the bird cage near Manto begins shaking, and Manto immediately realizes that Lanang is in serious danger. Meanwhile, Ipung doesn't get far because he was attacked by a swarm of evil spirits. And in the end, when it seems like everything's over, Manto suddenly appears and rescues Ipung, safely bringing him out of the dark realm in the end. Now the scene jumps forward a few days. We learn that Lanang might be sick because Wellok asks Ipung to make tea for his grandfather, but we don't see Lanang right now. We're in the grey area if Lanang is even alive or is Wedlock is just in depression. On the other hand, Suitor seems to have been recovered and his wife is out drying clothes when suddenly she feels like something evil is watching her. Later, Suitor is feeding his birds when he discovers his wife's severed head inside a cage. He screams and runs away in horror. Basically, the dark magic they messed up with ended up destroying their lives. And that's where the movie ends. But in the end credit scene, we see Lanang walking safely out of the forest, which confirms that he somehow survived as well. So this was the recap video on the movie Singsot, and I hope you have liked this video. If you have, then please subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. I really need your support to grow further. If you want to watch this movie, there's a link to my Telegram channel in the description box. If that link does not work, just go to Telegram and put my channel's name in the search bar. How and when you can find it on Telegram will be revealed on the channel, so go join that. I'm mostly active on Insta, so you can follow me there as well. And look into my other channel where we discuss about the mysteries of the world. All the links are in the description box. For now, see you all in the next one. Till then, stay awake, because they always see you.